It's shocking how sometimes one spontaneous act can turn one's whole life around. In this movie, one drunken decision changes Riley's whole life. She gets a stable job and even finds the person that makes her knees go weak. In the first scene of Married by Mistake, Riley wakes up and takes a look around. She is surprised to find herself naked with a naked Nate in tow in a strange bedroom. As she moves around trying to confirm what she's seeing, Nate is startled and awake. She takes a look around and finds out that they're in Vegas with rings on both of their fingers. The shocking reality dawned on them. They had gotten married while they were drunk. All the scenes from the previous day rush into Riley's head. She remembers being congratulated by her friend Layla for graduating, saying Nate isn't her type, getting a call that her job is on hold, drinking with Nate, pouring out her feelings of wanting a successful job and paying her loan to Nate. Nate informing her that she's just what he needs for his family business to rise, telling Nate she couldn't become a doctor like her mom wants her to be due to vasovagal syncope, a sickness that makes her faint when she's stressed out or sees blood, and finally getting bastardly drunk with Nate. The scene switches back to the room and Riley faints on the bed, shocking Nate. Riley is retching into the toilet, throwing up everything she drank the previous day. Standing by the door, Nate sarcastically says that it's nice that the idea of her marriage to him makes her nauseous. Riley explains that she's just not spontaneous and that she's more of a library girl. Nate agrees with her, saying that he is also not someone spontaneous. He then goes on to talk about the girlfriend he has had for basically his whole life and that they're even trying to make their long-distance relationship work. Trying to figure out how all these happened, they laugh when Riley says he was trying to convince her to save his family business. Riley complains that her family will freak out and says they must get a divorce, to which Nate agrees. Joggling things in his head, Nate thinks it's not such a bad idea as Riley and her competence are what they need in their company. He tells her to consider, but she says she doesn't think she'll fit in. He tells her there'll be a ticket waiting for her whenever she is ready. Riley goes to Layla for advice, and in Layla's house, she encourages Riley that it's a legit job offer because the cost of living is cheaper in Tennessee, and that Nate is kind of cute. Riley stresses to her that it was a mistake, but she asks if it was looking at the ring, trying to find out if it's real or not. Layla tells Riley that she's proud of her for finally doing something spontaneous, and advises her to take a shot at what life has thrown at her instead of always planning everything. At her home, Riley is looking at her brother's pictures when her mom, who's on the other side in the kitchen, tells her about her cousin Catalin's success. At the table, she assesses her father's clothes and shoes, condemning the shop he bought the shoes at. Her father tells her to buy clothes for him at Beacon, the place she was meant to work at before, and her mom tells her to send a gift to her aunt. She tells her mother to stop comparing her to her cousin, but her mother denies, blaming her aunt instead. Riley promises her mom to become a success and also allow them to stay with her, and her mom tells her to buy a guest house. In her room, Riley talks to her late brother's picture about what's been happening to her lately. She says she doesn't know why she's considering it, as she doesn't want to disappoint her parents. She tells him to give her a sign, and almost immediately, her phone chimes. In Nashville, Riley walks into a cafe asking for a particular drink, but a customer overhears her and tells her she won't find it there. Surprised, she looks back to see a handsome man, and she orders a chocolate shake instead. As she waits for her cup at the counter, she starts a conversation with the man. She tells him it's her first day at Cedar Falls and says that science shows that people in a smaller town are kinder due to necessity, and not altruism, as they are thinking of their future. The man is intrigued by her approach to starting a conversation with scientific data. She sits at his table and they get talking. They talk about different things. She asks if he stays in the town, but he says he left. He tells her about how he created a financial service app in Seattle, got married, divorced, and even sold the app. They go deeper into the conversation and he talks about his bad relationship with his dad and how it got worse after he married someone 10 years younger than him. Riley also talks about her feelings of guilt after her brother's death. She apologizes that she's rambling and says he's being nice, but he answers her saying he might need something from her someday, making her laugh. The man gets a call and needs to leave. He asks for her name and she tells him. Riley daydreams about him kissing her. She wakes up from her daydream when he calls her name and he tells her that he enjoyed their conversation. Riley is shocked at the whole situation that just took place. On her way, she gives Layla a call explaining everything to her. She complains that she isn't meant to be fantasizing about a stranger at this time, but rather building her career, as she doesn't need a guy to make her happy. She says she doesn't think it's a good idea as she might not fit in, and Layla tells her to stand out. Finding the building, she ends the call. In the Buy Right building, the receptionist welcomes Riley warmly. On another side of the building, Buck, Nate's father, just fired someone. Disappointed, his mother, Faye, goes to his office. She tells him desperately that they are facing a quarter in the red already, and that his father would be disappointed, but Buck brushes it off, shocking Faye. The receptionist interrupts them, bringing Riley in and introducing her as Nate's guest. Nate's father introduces himself, and when Riley recognizes the Bynum name, she is shocked. Nate walks in at this moment, and when she confirms that buy right is his family business, she hands him her turtle and faints. Next scene, Nate is fanning Riley, who is now on the couch in the office. She abruptly gets up, startling everyone. She whispers to Nate, saying she thought his last name was Fisher, but he lets her know that he used his mother's surname. Nate introduces Riley, and after exchanging pleasantries, Nate drops the bombshell, saying they're married and their mouths are left open. In his office, Nate clarifies that the only way to bring her in is by stalling their annulment and staying married a little longer. Annoyed, Riley tells him that she does not agree with buy right's policies, and Nate pleads that she changes the policies. He explains that after the death of his mother, they've been at a loss and have lost about 80 stores. Entering into work mode, she starts talking business, making Nate happy. He practically bribes her, saying they'll offer a generous price and that she'll stay rent-free and pay her loans easily. Riley is listing several reasons why she can't work for buy right when Emily, Nate's ex, walks in. Riley awkwardly introduces herself as Nate's wife. Emily is visibly unhappy about it and points out the absence of a ring on Riley's finger. Riley, who quickly wears it, invites Emily and her boyfriend Andrew for dinner. Nate brings Riley to his family home, and it's very big. At dinner, Buck apologizes for not being able to make it to Nate's graduation. He also comments that Nate's marriage was a little fast and without family, but Nate says that Riley is special to him. Buck asks Riley about her specialization in Stanford, and even Nate is shocked when she says socially conscious marketing. She explains that it allows consumers to connect with companies better, and Buck talks down on it, but Riley stands her ground. Nate quickly explains that their brand needs a makeover and mentions that her perspective will add value to their marketing department. Annoyed, Buck tries to counter, but Faye adds the company needs fresh eyes, shutting him up. In the living room, the family is seated as Riley and Nate discuss the best strategy for the betterment of the buy right stores. Faye says she'll give them Cedar Falls and that when they come up with a plan to turn things around, they'll talk. Buck tries to protest, but Faye interrupts, saying she asked Reese to return. This information shocks both Riley, who didn't know Nate had a brother, and Nate, who's shocked his brother is joining buy right. Buck explains that it's till everything gets stable. Reese comes in, and it turns out to be the guy Riley met earlier at the cafe. Riley is on a call with Layla, who is laughing at her situation. She is at another end of the house when she hears her name. Cutting the call, she sees Buck in the hallway, and he tells her that he'll pay her whatever is in her prenup since she isn't pregnant. Riley tells him that she is not interested. She says Nate thinks buy right is worth saving and she can help, leaving him speechless. She leaves, and when Buck leaves also, Faye comes out of the office door, having overheard the conversation. Entering the living room, Riley sees Reese. She asks why he didn't tell her who he was, and he asks why she didn't tell him she was married. As she's about to talk, Faye walks in with Nate, expressing how happy she is that the two of them are together. Nate asks his grandma if she isn't afraid of them killing each other, and she says it's a risk she's willing to take. When she leaves, Reese congratulates Nate, and Riley answers. Reese points out that he gave her their mom's ring, and Nate says it's not like he's using it. The conversation between the two brothers is awkward, as there is an obvious tension in the air. In the next scene, Nate helps drag Riley's heavy boxes into the house. Riley is seated in the sitting room when Nate walks in. He tells her she is set for the guest room. She thanks him for trusting her with his mom's ring. She realizes it was meant for Emily, and Nate explains that Emily dumped him on their graduation. He says since she moved on, he should too. Riley and Nate are in Reese's office, showing him the plan. She asks Reese if he's going to put flowers in his office, but he says no since he's not staying for long. After looking at the plan, Reese asks her if she has worked with sales before. She says yes, and Nate even chips in, but Reese tries to explain that his dad will try to blame her, and that he's unhinged. Annoyed, Nate asks why Reese is always attacking their dad, and Reese asks why Nate is always defending him. The two brothers get into a banter. Through the intercom, Reese hears that his father wants to see him and leaves the office. In her office, Riley is setting up her table when someone comes in. He comments on the figurines and introduces himself. DeMarcus tells her that she has to go undercover to scope out the Cedar Falls store on Nate's orders, and she's excited. He gives her a change of clothes and that he told the manager she's been transferred from Memphis. Riley gets to the store, but the manager isn't around, so Maria shows her around. The store is in a bad state. In a room in the office, Nate and Reese are playing basketball, and Reese asks him some questions about Riley, but Nate doesn't get them right. He asks if it is good to surprise their father, and Nate says he'll come around. This makes Reese say Nate always believed in miracles. At the store, Riley meets a small girl, Amelia, who was separated from her family, and Maria tries to find her mom. Ted, the store manager, comes in, greets Riley, and even tries to hit on her. In the break room at the office, Riley talks to DeMarcus about the bad shape of the store and also about Ted. DeMarcus tells her Ted is Faye's nephew, and that's the only reason he's still there. Before leaving, he advises Riley to be careful of Buck and warns that he's dangerous, having heard from a little bird that she got off at the wrong foot with him. As Riley turns to leave, she accidentally hits Reese, who's behind her, and her coffee pours on his shirt. Riley tries to explain that she isn't talking about a complete restructure to Reese as he tries to clean his shirt at the sink, but Reese has a different opinion. Seeing the way Reese is trying to clean his shirt is futile, Riley tells him to take off his shirt so he can soak it instead. He does, and she tries to help him clean. Nate walks in, seeing them in an awkward position. They try to explain, but Nate just tells them that they closed 10 more stores. Emily tells her that the wedding announcement is on the news, and she tells Nate that her parents don't know yet. Nate tells her not to worry since it's Cedar Falls news. The next day in Bayreuth, Riley is on the phone with Layla on her way to her office. Layla tells her she's always missing the cues of people hitting on her, and as they're talking, Riley sees Reese through an office door talking to a group of people. She has another daydream about him kissing her, and when she realizes she's staring, she quickly leaves, hitting boxes on the way. Faye witnesses everything. At the store working undercover, Riley sees Amelia reading a book. She tells her she also loved the book once and tells her to enjoy it. In the next scene, Riley walks Nate to the front of their house as he and Emily are going on a business trip. They have an awkward goodbye kiss, leaving Emily confused. Talking to her turtle herb while cooking, Riley says she doesn't care if anything goes on between Nate and Emily, and Nate never said she couldn't explore her options. She also says she can't tell Reese because she'll blow her cover and she doesn't know how he feels. Realizing she's talking to her turtle and he can't help her, she sighs. She cuts her finger and seeing the blood makes her dizzy. She quickly covers it and calls Reese but faints as she's talking. Waking up, Riley sees Reese putting a bandage on her finger and she thanks him. Seeing her wallpaper, he asks if it's her brother and she says yes. He tells her to stay away from sharp knives. In the break room at the office the next day, Riley sees Reese again and she tells him she doesn't want their work to be affected since they hit it off the first day they met. And now things are very awkward. In the next scene, Riley is having dinner with Faye. Faye asks her how the Cedar Falls store is doing, and she explains that the morale is low but that it has a good employee, Maria, who will be fit for manager. Faye says they'll find something else for Ted, her nephew. Riley adds that aside from that, Bayreuth needs a serious update as they are outdated. Faye explains that her husband was reluctant to give Buck, but Elizabeth, his wife, was responsible and handled the business well, but everything fell apart after she died. She explains that having the boys help, but Nate, like his dad, needs someone to help him see the bigger picture, and that she makes a great team with Nate if that's what she wants. In the break room at the office, Buck calls DeMarcus and asks him to do something for him. DeMarcus looks unsure. At night in the store checking out the sensor and on the phone with Layla, Riley explains that she wants to go around Buck and get Faye to approve her plans since he's convinced she wants to maneuver her way to the executive seat. Layla tells her that she doesn't need to prove anything and that she can come home, but she says she knows what she's doing, saying that if all goes well, Cedar Falls can be used as a nationwide model. The security says everything's locked up, but as they're about to go, they hear movement. Entering one of the doors, the security checks it out and they see Maria and Amelia cooped up in a corner on a makeshift bed. Seated in the store, Riley listens to Maria's story. Maria says she's been working since high school and couldn't go to community college because she got pregnant. She says they stayed with her mother, but she died not too long ago, and not being able to keep up with the rent, she started staying in the store. Riley asks why she didn't try to become manager since she's good, but she said she doesn't want to aim too high. The next day, in the office, Riley sends someone to Reese saying she needs to talk. On reaching her office, she hasn't settled down when she gets a call from her parents asking about her marriage. They found out through her aunt, and as she's about to answer, Reese comes in asking why she didn't tell him Maria was living in the store. He walks out and she calls him, but he doesn't answer. Outside the office, Riley calls her dad. She tells her dad everything about the arranged marriage and also tells him that things aren't working out. Her dad encourages her, telling her that he's never known her to give up, and she thanks him. At the shareholders meeting in the office, Emily is giving a presentation and Riley comes in late. She stands beside Reese and explains to him that she didn't know that Maria was living in the store and that Maria is a good person and is great at what she does. Reese tells her to let him handle it, and Riley assures him that she doesn't want to hurt the company or the family. Emily is done and Buck stands up. He says the company is like family and gets complicated when open to people outside the kin. He also says that the most important factor of an employee is loyalty. As he's about to continue, Faye, who senses what he's about to do, interrupts him and uses the opportunity to tell them about the plan Nate, Riley, and Reese have taken up to help fix their company. She then says that they look forward to unveiling it at the next meeting. Realizing that they have been tagged, Nate, Riley, and Reese get to work. Riley shares the work and everyone gets to it. At night, Riley presents the ad ideas she comes up with them. They agree that the ads are good, but that Buck won't like them. Riley makes a joke saying rebranding Bayreuth is like putting socks on a rooster. Nate says she's been here too long, and realizing they've been at work for long, decided to call it a day. Riley tells him that she has to stay back because she needs to go over budgets with Reese, and he leaves. Later on, Reese brings coffee for Riley, who's still working. Picking up a paper he saw on the desk, he asks her what it is, and she explains that she cooked up a management training program with DeMarcus on something employees could do during the lunch break. Reese says it's ambitious and she agrees. Soon Riley gets tired and Reese asks to show her something. He takes her somewhere outside the building. He tells her that his mom built the place for employees to relax after a long day. Looking at the stars, she tells him that her brother taught her constellations and that she knows he'll be proud of what they're doing. Sighing, Reese says that he knows she means well but she can't save the company, and that he doesn't want to see her get her hopes up. This makes Riley tell him that he can't shut the world out just because things don't go his way. Giving an example of what he did in his company, she tells him he knows the ethics of a good business and he probably learned it from his mom. She tells him that he came back because he knows his mom put her heart into her work and that he should stop pretending like he doesn't care. As she's talking, Reese kisses her and she kisses back, then she faints. She wakes up in his arms. The next day in the office, Buck is going through a file. He asks DeMarcus if that's all he got and he says he wants Riley out of the office as soon as possible. At the family house, it's Faye's birthday and they celebrate with her. Faye cuts the cake and as Riley goes to the kitchen to wash the knife, Buck follows her. He accuses her of deceiving Nate into marrying her and being a gold digger because she's in debt. Reese comes and asks what happened and Buck tells him about her debts. Frustrated, Riley goes to the balcony and Reese follows her. He tells her that it isn't about money but that Buck is afraid of her because Faye likes her ideas and the board might pursue him. They apologize to each other for the previous night and he tells her that since his mother, she's the only one that can change the company, and that they need her. It's the shareholders meeting again and Riley gives a presentation of her vision for buy rights and everyone loves it. They go to the store where they show the improvements done in the store. They talk about the new wireless system and the upgrade of the break room for employees and also speak on the Elizabeth Fisher scholarship so that promising part-timers can finish college, and also subsidize the cost of daycare. Buck complains that it'll bankrupt them but they defend their point. Riley asks the board to trust them to win over the new generation, and the board loves it. Buck calls DeMarcus to the side and asks why he didn't sabotage the plan even after he paid him and he says that Reese paid him more. On another side, Riley is on a call with Layla who congratulates her. She asks about Reese and Riley says that he has convinced himself he doesn't care. She ends the call because she's going to dinner with Nate at a country club. As she leaves the aisle turning left, she sees Faye who yells to her that as long as she's with Nate, Reese won't admit his feelings. She walks away leaving behind a speechless Riley. As they go into the club, Riley asks Nate if he brought her along to make Emily jealous and he says no. There, she is surprised to see everyone and Faye tells her that it was Reese's plan since she didn't have a proper reception. Buck tells them that he doesn't know if their strategy will work nationwide and Riley says they'll have to wait and see. Reese looks at Riley but she's by Nate's side. Meanwhile, Nate tries to call out to Emily too but someone rushes to take a picture of Nate and Riley. After the picture, Riley goes to Reese and thanks him. He says they aren't done yet and her parents come out. She hugs them, happy to see them. She introduces Nate to them and apologizes for not telling them and they say they were just surprised. Riley gets some alone time with her mom amid the noise. Her mom tells her about how she followed her father to San Francisco even though her family was against it. She says she's proud of her but can't watch her lie to herself about something important. She says she should trust her and that she loves her. While Riley is with her parents, Reese comes to check on them. Her parents go to the dance floor and Riley thanks Reese again. He says it's the least he can do to welcome her to the family. Riley wants to tell him something but Faye calls Riley and Nate to the stage. On the stage, Riley gives a speech saying she's lucky to have parents that love her. She says she's grateful for the new family but that she hasn't been honest. In the crowd, Emily is about to leave and Nate collects the mic from Riley and confesses that he still loves Emily. He apologizes saying he's a fool and Emily agrees. She says she broke up with Andrew weeks ago and they kiss. Angry, Reese punches Nate. Riley runs up to him and explains that she doesn't love Nate and knows he doesn't love her. Annoyed, Reese asks if it was all a big joke. She says Nate is her friend and as she tries to explain, he says he understands why he left this place leaving the party. With all the drama, Faye falls in pain. In the next scene, Riley is on the phone with her mom. She tells her that Faye is okay but the doctor says she'll be convalescing for a while. Her mom asks if she's heard from Reese but she hasn't. At the store, Amelia runs to hug Riley and Riley gives her a gift. She gives Maria a check and course book and Maria hugs her grateful. At the hospital, they waited around Faye who was still drifting in and out. She wakes up and sees Riley. She asks Riley if she's leaving and when she said yes, Faye abruptly sits up asking if she's insane. She tells her to fight for what she wants and that Reese needs someone to believe him. So, she tells her to go find Reese. In his room, Reese receives a call. Riley goes to the place Reese's mom made for employees to relax and meets Reese there. She lets him know that he is the only person that has seen her for who she is, and Reese also says that it's the first time someone has seen him. She says she can't stay married to Nate, and when he asks why, she confesses that it's because she loves him. Reese confesses his love for her too, and they kiss. He asks if she'll faint again, and when she says no, he says he has a surprise. Bringing 2 cups of milkshake, they kiss again. Kindly subscribe and like for more videos. Thank you for watching.